After hitting 102 points in Game Week 17, we've now reached the top 150k of all players in FPL at the moment. We have free transfers to take into Game Week 18, so let's go and take a look at my team selection for this game week. Now, before we dive into today's video, guys, if you do enjoy any of the content that you see on the channel, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, as we are trying to hit 11,000 subscribers before the end of the year. We only need around 25 more people to get involved with that one. So if you do enjoy any of the content that you see, like I said, be sure to hit that subscribe button. It means the absolute world to me. As you can see on screen right now, we had an absolutely incredible week, scoring 102 points, taking us to around 121k in the world. And obviously, if you've been following my journey on the channel from the start of the season, where we decided not to go without Erling Haaland, we didn't have him in the side, we were getting absolutely decimated, and come game week 7 we were sat at 5.2 million in the world. Now, from that point, my aim was first to get into the top million before Christmas. Then once we'd achieved that within a couple of game weeks, it was of course to break into the top 500k, and we've obviously just kind of been building momentum, and now we've reached the top 120k. Now, obviously, that can all fall away very, very quickly as much as it's rose, but I think it shows you guys that anything is possible within this game if you make the correct decisions most weeks, and probably do just get that little bit of luck with some of the players. As you can see within the side, Aina probably being one of those players where most people have already probably flogged him off, but I needed to keep him because I prioritised other transfers within my side. Kept him. He got a mega 15-point haul, so I'm very, very happy with that one. A Kirkez clean sheet away at United as well, and I think that just shows that this season, I think we probably shouldn't be afraid to play some of our lesser players, especially defenders, if they do have difficult fixtures, because a lot of the teams aren't looking great defensively this season. There's been less clean sheets at this stage of the season compared to last season as well. We're projected to get less clean sheets than there were last year, which was already a downfall from the year before, around 200 2 years ago. Last year there was 157 clean sheets. It looks again from the projections where we're at right now, there's probably going to be even less than that again this year. So is the point in spending money in that back line? I'm starting to think no. I think maybe the only defence that I'm probably looking at maybe a double up of is Gabriel and Arsenal, because around kickoff, I think if you didn't have two Arsenal defenders, you were probably looking at around 115% effective ownership, meaning that the Arsenal defence, unless you had two of them, was pretty much worthless them keeping a clean sheet for you in your rank. You're actually better off them conceding. So it might be a situation where we need to potentially go and get a Gabriel in here to complement the Raya in goal, to kind of get any kind of reward out of the Arsenal back line. But at the moment, I'm pretty much probably just going to stick with these players and hope for the best and keep just playing them, because defenders this year are scoring very, very randomly. Ashley Young's a prime example of that, currently the third highest scoring player within the game. How many people would have backed Ashley Young to be in that position at the start of the year? Not many, and I think that says a lot about the game. Obviously, the Saka injury we're going to talk about and my potential replacements as well with him. We also have Mohamed Salah captain. Very, very nice. And of course, Cunha picking up a goal with free bonus, even better. And then Alexander Isak with his hat-trick. A very, very astute transfer in. We brought him in 2 weeks ago for Vissa, and that move has definitely paid dividends over the past few weeks as well, with Vissa blanking in his last two. And of course, Alexander Isak smashing through the glass door and absolutely caking it for us. We could have even had a better week and probably broke into the top 100k if we'd have gone for what we were kind of umming and ahhing about in the deadline, which was Rodgers to João Pedro. Unfortunately, we didn't make that move, so it means that that was never going to be the case. So unfortunately, it is what it is. We'll take the 102. We definitely got lucky with some of the picks. Obviously, Aina absolutely smashing it. Kirk has a clean sheet as well. Stuff like that. Probably a little bit of luck, but sometimes that's the way that the game has to go. So let's move on to how my team is looking ahead of next week without any transfers. And as you can see, right, and I genuinely mean this, if Cunha doesn't get banned, we could roll it. Like, it's not the worst team in the world. We've probably got the big hitters. We're probably missing out on Arsenal, maybe Jackson as well for next week in terms of the big boys that probably could do some damage to us. But the rest of the team, I probably would be quite happy just rolling that over, to be honest. I don't think there's any kind of main killers that I can really see, bar Jackson and probably another Arsenal player, to our rank overall. But everybody else we probably could roll. So it is a shame that Saka is out injured. Obviously, we're still waiting for news on the Cunha suspension and what to do with him. I personally don't think he's going to be banned till maybe the new year. I don't imagine anybody is in the FA's office in the run-up to Christmas or round Boxing Day, New Year's. I don't think there's going to be anyone in there to process it. So I reckon it's probably going to be a New Year ban for him. I'm very, very happy to play him against Manchester United, considering their recent defensive poor results as well. I'm happy to keep Aït-Nouri for one more week as well, because he's back from his suspension, and if you've been reading some of the manager's press conference comments around Aït-Nouri, you will see that he has been playing him as a winger in training, which is very, very exciting to see. I'm very comfortable playing Aina against Tottenham as well. Nottingham Forest seem to be able to just keep picking up results. Seem to have a little bit of the Leicester vibe to them. You know, a few years ago when Leicester, everyone kept writing them off, but they kept winning games and was still there towards the end of the season, still there at Christmas as well. And people are like, nah, they'll fall off eventually. Doesn't seem like that's going to be happening. So I reckon just keeping Aina for probably large parts of the season, unless Forest really do go and get themselves battered, is probably going to be something that will just stay within the side as well. Obviously, the problem players we do have to talk about. We spoke about Cunha and his potential ban coming. João Pedro has been really, really disappointing in recent weeks. And Buemo's fixtures are going to tank after this Brighton fixture as well. And then, of course, Bukayo Saka, who Arteta's press conference today said he looks like he could be out for a few weeks. Again, do I believe Arteta? Probably not. However, multiple journalists have also been reporting that it's probably going to be around 6 to 7 game weeks. So I do feel like it probably is time to get rid of Bukayo Saka and look at the alternatives, which is what we're going to do in today's video. So let's go and take a look at them. First off, let's start off with my first potential replacement for, of course, Bukayo Saka. It is going to be Bruno Fernandes, and the reason that I've selected him is I don't think the fixtures are absolutely incredible. I think they're quite mixed, to be honest, but the reason I've selected him over a busy period, you've got a player that plays 90 minutes, is one of United's best players. Him and Ahmed, they just are the two best players for Manchester United. On penalties, 90 minutes, is looking okay in individual performances. Probably his team's letting him down a little bit, and probably a little bit unlucky with some of the results that he's had. But I think for me, he just seems like a steady, safe pair of hands that I could rely on if I needed someone in that midfield that's going to play regular minutes. I don't really have to worry about any potential benching headaches. It also keeps that value within the midfield if maybe Saka's back a few weeks earlier and we want to get him back into the side as well. So that is kind of the thought process with Bruno Fernandes. Obviously, there are some other options that are floating around my mind as well within that price point. Obviously, Phil Foden as well, with Manchester City's fixtures looking absolutely delectable over the next 5 game weeks. They're also top of the 11-5 model for projected goals over those next 5. And I definitely think City can't keep losing games. Like, it just can't keep happening. There will be a period, and I think over this next 5, after the Everton game, who've looked really, really good recently, Ipswich, Leicester, West Ham, Brentford, all of these teams are towards the bottom of the XG conceded charts. Surely City have to create some chances against these side. Surely City have to score some goals. So maybe looking at people like Phil Foden could be potentially worth that gamble. But I think for right now, probably will be looking at a safe and steady pair of hands in Bruno Fernandes. Like I said though, I do have free transfers, so there's lots of other moves to be making, and obviously the forward area is looking a little bit of a problem outside of Isak. Cunha's ban's looming. Of course, João Pedro really been stinking up the gaff as well. So Nicholas Jackson is a player I want to get into my side. I know he's been a little bit disappointing for his owners in recent weeks. However, still decent underlying data, still scoring goals. Could have easily had a brace against Everton. Fulham's not the easiest fixture, but Ipswich and Palace is a great set of fixtures as well for Nicholas Jackson. My only concern with him is, of course, over this busy festive period, we saw him benched in a midweek round earlier in December when they played against Southampton. Maybe he could miss out on one of the Ipswich or Crystal Palace games, which would be a massive blow for the side as well. But I definitely have to think he is better than João Pedro, and I can do that move as well if I was to downgrade Saka to Bruno Fernandes. So that's the move I am liking quite a lot. The other option is, of course, to include Gabriel Jesus and use all free transfers to take out Cunha if banned as well. Ipswich at home for him. Obviously, he scored 5 goals within his past 4 days, all coming against Crystal Palace. But you look at the teams on that list as well, all of them really terrible teams for the XG conceded so far this year. Ipswich starting to get battered as well. Brentford looking very wobbly defensively this year, as are Brighton as well. The only concern I would have with Gabriel Jesus is, of course, he has just come back from injury. Whether or not he's going to be playing every single minute over such a short time period does worry me. And then the other problem is the fact that he is currently sat on 4 yellow cards. The guy has more yellow cards than starts this season, which could be a big problem going forward with the side, because if he picks up another one and then is out suspended for this good period of time, yeah, that's a bit of a dicey one. I think as well with him, he's more of a short-term player that I think probably I'd only want for maybe 3 weeks. And after that period, probably would look to start to get rid of him. Obviously, unless he continues to bang in the goals for Arsenal. But I don't think I can really see that happening. And bringing in 2 players on yellow cards as well, that could be a little bit of a recipe for disaster if both of them pick up yellow cards this week and are suspended for game week 19. Some of the other players I am looking at is within that cheap midfield price bracket. Obviously, Ahmed's also in there, but I think Bruno is slightly edging it a little bit more. Then we have Saw and Enzo, 2 very, very exciting players that we could be looking at over the next few weeks. I really, really like the Crystal Palace fixtures going forward over the next 5 to 6 game weeks, and I definitely am looking at Mateta if I was to keep Cunha going forward and then bring in Mateta next week for that Southampton fixture. But Saw could be a great way into that Palace attack at 5.7 million. Really, really good underlying data. It does feel a little bit knee-jerky. However, if you watch the performances over the past few weeks, he's definitely a player that has passed the eye test with good fixtures coming up, and Palace look a little bit more improved as well. Hopefully get Eze back from injury to add to that creativity in terms of attack as well. Enzo, his numbers have fallen off a little bit over the past few weeks, which is disappointing. However, for his price point and for the way that Chelsea are playing and the good fixtures, I spoke about this many a time in videos at the moment, that I feel like realistically, if you brought into Chelsea assets now, you could hold them till the end of the season, because I imagine they're going to be at least in a top 4 race, maybe a title race come the end of the season, but I feel they do need to be a little bit more consistent, a little bit more ruthless if they do want to be in there. But a lot of their difficult games are kind of spread out, and you can realistically probably bench assets like Enzo in them or play them. Like City's their next difficult game coming up, and if City still look as dangerous as dull as they are, you definitely feel like you could still play Enzo Fernandes within that game. So that's one to maybe consider as well, and I think he could just be a good cheap option going forward as well. Those are the players that I am looking at this game week. Obviously there are a few more on the periphery, but let's go and have a look how my team is going to be lining up this week with some of the transfers suggested from this section. Wasting no time, let's dive straight into this team for game week 18. Starting off first with our goalkeepers and defenders. Of course, we're going to dive into David Raya first. The Arsenal defence should be looking very, very decent for a clean sheet. On the 11-5 model, they have a 60% probability of a clean sheet. However, I do feel due to the popularity of the Arsenal defence and good fixtures coming up, I'm probably going to have to maybe look at a double up in terms of their defence over the next few weeks. And I don't actually think Arsenal keeping a clean sheet is going to be beneficial for my rank this game week. So maybe them conceding a little bit of a sloppy goal to Ipswich might be more kind of in favour, and maybe banking against them and maybe playing Fabianski at Southampton could be more of a better deal. I don't know. Let me know which way you potentially think on that one. But for now, we are going to stick with David Raya. Moving on into the back line, and obviously the fixtures don't look absolutely incredible for my defenders this week. But Kirkes at home, that should be a pretty decent fixture. Bournemouth now up to 5th in the table, so having a really, really good year for them. Obviously as well, their XG conceded numbers are pretty decent across the board. And I actually think it would be quite a difficult place to go for Crystal Palace in the Vitality in that game. 8 Nuri, obviously back from suspension. If you read some of the manager's press conference comments around him, he has been using him as a right winger in training. So it'd be really, really interesting to see how that one develops within the game themselves. Again, he is a player that I want to look to replace over the next few weeks. However, I do feel like using my transfers on more forward and pressing areas is going to be a better use of them rather than wasting them on defenders who haven't been scoring as well this season, and some of the kind of poorer teams and poorer defenders have actually been scoring quite inconsistently, and random scores have been popping up. Obviously Aina against Brentford comes to mind, Ashley Young, Mikalenko and stuff like that as well. So maybe we might get something out of 8 Nuri the Troll this week against United. And then finally Aina against Tottenham. I could obviously play Konza against Newcastle. However, I do feel a lot more bullish in the fact that Nottingham Forest could keep a clean sheet there. Currently sat 3rd in the table for XG conceded, have been stupendous stupendous defensively this year as well. So I'm going to back Ada, I'm going to back Forest. Tottenham as well, I don't really know what to expect of them. Forest being at home as well, I do feel gives them the advantage, and it would not shock me to see a Nottingham Forest 1-0 win within that game. Let's move on then into the midfield. We're going to have Bryan Mbeumo, probably going to be his last dance within the side, but recently Brentford's defensive record has been atrocious. Only one clean sheet since game week 8, so they're not really a team that likes to keep clean sheets. I think Bryan Mbeumo is starting to get back to the levels we saw from him a couple game weeks ago. We're starting to see some decent, better data coming from him as well, and I think Brentford could actually maybe line up within a 3-5-2 system with him potentially playing up front with the attacking nature that of course Brighton go for, and we could see him playing in that forward area. Could also be back in his more traditional right wing back role that we've seen over the past few weeks from him as well. But like I said, probably going to be one last dance within the side for me. Next up is going to be Bruno Fernandes. Obviously we spoke about him and the pros of going for him. It is that security, it is the penalties, it's a decent fixture against Wolves as well, and Almiron will be looking to bounce back after a very, very disappointing result of the weekend. Salah's going to be the captain. He's top on predicted points on all of pretty much the websites you look at. FPL Review, Fantasy Football Hub, Fantasy Football Fix, Draft Town, they all have him top for this week. Leicester the past few weeks have looked absolutely atrocious, and I feel like if Wolves can play you off the park, a team that have looked desperate over the past few weeks, what are a very, very fluid Liverpool attack going to do to you? Probably a lot of damage. So that's why we're going with Mohamed Salah captain. Palmer is going to be vice. I think Fulham are a little bit better defensively than most people give them credit for. Currently sat 6-4 XG conceded within the Premier League as well. So might be a little bit more of a sterner test for him, but could have very easily came away with an assist at the weekend against Everton if Nicholas Jackson had his shooting boots on. Obviously Ipswich up next week as well, where he probably will be my captain for that one. Heading into the front line, obviously Nicholas Jackson. We spoke about the pros of going with him in the last section. Good long-term fixtures as well, and one of the biggest threats to my EO in recent weeks, so I'm glad I've got him in the side, and I don't feel like there's too many other players that are really going to be kind of threatening my EO. Probably only the Arsenal defence, and maybe if obviously people like Gabriel Jesus get mass ownerships and bought into him, but everybody else I feel like I've probably got covered off from an effective ownership point of view. Cunha, watching that United defence, I definitely feel confident that a player like Matheus Cunha, who is a bonus point magnet, by the way, another 3 points for him, which is absolutely incredible. Like I've spoke about, I think maybe 5 or 6 weeks ago, the benefits of going for Cunha is the fact that he is a BPS magnet. Before he even sets foot onto the pitch or actually scores his goal, should I say, he's already hovering around 12, 13. He adds a goal to that, he's probably heading into second or third for the bonus points as well. So that's how good he is. And again, I feel very, very confident going against that United defence. I feel very confident Cunha could do exceptionally well in that one. Alexander Isak, third for goals in 2024, only behind Mohamed Salah and, of course, Erling Haaland. The next 3 fixtures people might be looking at and saying are a little bit more difficult. Villa have only kept 2 clean sheets so far this season. Then I believe, I can't quite remember who the fixture is off the top of my head. Let me bring it up. The fixture after that one is Manchester United. They just conceded 3 to Bournemouth. Still lots of problems there. Spurs as well, defensively horrific, especially at White Hart Lane. I believe that's now 3 teams have put 5 past them at White Hart Lane this season as well. Then we go into a run of Wolves, Bournemouth, Southampton and Fulham. It's a great run. There's still plenty of time to obviously be purchasing Alexander Isak as well going forward with your side. So yeah, let's have a look how the team's going to be looking going forward in the next few weeks as well. So game week 19, I do have some transfer plans for that week. Of course, it would be Bryan Mbeumo out. I probably would go for Enzo. And then, like I said, we probably would upgrade Cunha to Mateta going forward. So that probably would be the plans there in terms of the transfers. We probably then would also just bench Aït-Nouri and put Konza in for that week, and obviously make Palmer our captain for game week 19. I feel that would be a very, very good side going forward. Then moving on to game week 20. Again, as you can see here, probably no real problems. I probably would just start Rodgers over Mateta and maybe put Aït-Nouri in there, but at the least, I feel like we could probably bench everybody else in that run there. Game week 21, we come into here. Mateta probably comes back in for either Rodgers, probably Rodgers away at Everton, and then we probably drop Aina like that. So yeah, I feel like the team's in a pretty good position. We probably need some defensive transfers come maybe game week 21, but we'll have a couple built in the bank at that point. So overall, I feel very, very confident with how the side is looking going forward, and I feel like this structure is going to be the best one for me and my team. I obviously spoke about it within the FPL experts video around potentially maybe looking at Erling Haaland, but I think with his price point, it is extremely difficult to bring him in for that 5 game week stretch. So maybe looking at someone like Phil Foden, and keeping my options open that way might be the better way to go, looking to attack those City fixtures over the next 5. That was my team selection ahead of game week 18. Let me know what you think of it down in the comment section below. Of course, if you've got any questions about your team, get them in the comments, as I'll try to answer as many as I possibly can. But thank you very much for watching today, ladies and gentlemen, and good luck in game week 18.